Good morning and welcome to the OBX wave report for December 27th, 2022. I am Robert Scribbler, your wave reporter for today, and I am happy to report that conditions for the Outer Banks and for most of the US East are much more placid than they have been over recent days. A powerful bomb cyclone that formed over the Great Lakes and then dropped into the 960 millibar range and whipped up gale force winds and stronger across much of the northeast and central northeast U.S. along the Ohio River Valley and near the Great Lakes and across the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast is now but a fading memory, although that memory may be pretty poignant for some as hundreds of thousands lost power during the system. Some of them happen to be my relatives who got their power knocked out just prior to their Christmas holiday, which did put a little bit of a chill on their festivities, for lack of a better word. But they were fortunate. There were among well, right now, presently, the present count is that 50 souls have been tragically lost due to the intensity of this storm, primarily due to being caught in vehicles or in houses without power or just outside in general as conditions rapidly worsened and as temperatures rapidly fell associated with this bomb cyclone that occurred a couple of days ago. Um, I would like to extend my warmest regards and thoughts to anyone who suffered during this most recent storm event, and my heartfelt regards to any families who have been impacted by the recent bomb cyclone event across the U.S. For today, for the wave report, I am happy to report that conditions in the Outer Banks are mostly very placid and calm, if a little bit cool, but the chill in the air is starting to blunt as temperatures rise and as conditions return to near normal for December. The waves across the Outer Banks are also rather calm, with wave heights ranging from 1 to 2 feet across most of the Outer Banks, and we're going to get into that a little bit more as we go through the wave report today. As you can see from today's earlier satellite shot, we have clear skies over most of the Outer Banks with some cloudy conditions intruding from the south and west, but it's mostly sunny with partly cloudy conditions over the Outer Banks. This geocolor satellite image provided by NOAA does give a very clear view of the U.S. Mid-Atlantic and Southeast, and those of us in these regions are being treated to very clear skies and beautiful clear conditions with a bright sun shining down. Looking at the infrared satellites shot, we do see the remnants of the bomb cyclone swirling up here in eastern Canada. It is petering out and is mostly a memory, although some snowy weather is still affecting Canada at this time. Toward our east, we have a frontal boundary which has lurked off the coastline for some time now, providing some stormy weather off the coast, but nothing too intense. Over the west, we have a powerful storm system that is running in through the Pacific Northwest here and is lashing out at the states of Washington and Oregon with powerful rainstorms, some snows for the higher elevations, and just offshore conditions, significant wave heights are 30 feet or higher. So very powerful storm here moving into the Pacific Northwest. This system is expected to head into the western U.S. and lose a lot of its energy as it gets away from the Pacific Ocean and then become an impulse that runs across the rest of the United States. Looking at the wave models, as we can see here, the nearshore conditions for waves are in the range of about 1 to 2 feet off the Outer Banks. Actually, about 1.5 to 2.5 feet. Although it is worth noting that the swell has turned around and is coming into the Outer Banks shores. And so we have reached the bottom as far as wave heights go for the Outer Banks. And with those swells beginning to turn around and come back into shore, we expect steadily improving conditions for the Outer Banks from now on as far as wave conditions go. Excuse me, I have a little Christmas frog in my throat. Let me take a sip of coffee here. And so yes, so slowly but steadily improving conditions, wave conditions forecast for the Outer Banks over the coming days. So let's do our local wave reports for locations in the Outer Banks. Starting off with Jeanette's Pier, waves right now are very small at just 1 foot, so knee high or less at Jeanette's Pier, with the primary swell coming in at 9 seconds and the secondary swell coming in at 14 seconds. Winds are out of the north-northwest at 9 miles per hour, which is coming right across the shore here. So a cross shore wind, but the wind is very light. So very calm, very placid conditions here at Jeanette's Pier with an air temperature of 42 degrees. So warming up a bit from recent days, although still very chilly, particularly as you get closer to the ocean and you get that ocean damp. So that's a damp 42 degrees. The ocean water temperatures are 53. So with that combined air and ocean water temperature, please make sure that you have your cold weather protection. You're probably going to want to get out there in a 3-4 millimeter wetsuit with your hoodies and booties and gloves to keep your body warm. The weather is calm, partly cloudy, and the expected high for today for Jeanette's Pier is 45 degrees Fahrenheit, possibly a little warmer right there at the pier with the ocean interaction. Moving on south down to Avon Pier, we have rather calm conditions as well, but I'm happy to report that the waves are a little bit more rideable, running in the range of 1 to 2 feet. So a little knee to thigh-high wave conditions there for you. The primary swell is also coming in at 9 seconds, with this secondary swell also coming in at 14 seconds. So pretty uniform swell conditions on the the east-facing beaches of the Outer Banks along the northern end. And winds at Avon Pier are coming in at 14 miles per hour, so a bit more brisk down there at Avon, out of the north-northwest at 14 miles per hour for those winds. And with that cant to the coastline, tilting more toward the south uh, and facing east and east-southeast, those winds are coming in offshore with those north-northwest winds. Air temperature at Avon Pier is 48 degrees Fahrenheit, which is warmer than even just a little bit inland there. The ocean water temperature is 61 degrees Fahrenheit. So still ranging into the 60s at Avon, but nonetheless, you're probably going to want your cold weather protection because of those air temperatures. And 60-degree water temperatures are still pretty cool. Weather conditions are partly cloudy, and the high for today at Avon, apparently not at the pier, is expected to be 47. So you already have an indicator of that ocean interaction there at Avon. Those 60-degree water temperatures already pushing up the air temperatures a bit. Now moving further south past Buxton and Hatteras Island and making that right turn on Route 12 there, we're going to head down to Billy Mitchell Airport and to the beach that is just right near this historic air park. And we find that wave conditions at Billy Mitchell are 2 feet. So so we have the big wave spot for the Outer Banks today are 2 foot waves. So nothing really amazing, but you're likely to find some rideable swells in there with some pretty calm and or at least very moderate conditions. I'm sure the swell is not very chopped up at all by the winds down there, which are relatively calm. So this 2 foot wave, this 2 foot swell is coming in at a period of 9 seconds for the primary swell and 5 seconds for the secondary swell. And those winds that are much calmer than yesterday and the day before are at 13 miles per hour out of the north-northwest and with a south-facing beach that is offshore. Air temperature at Billy Mitchell is 43 degrees Fahrenheit, so cooler than Avon. Ocean water temperature is 62, so the ocean's just slightly warmer. So you're going to definitely need that cold weather protection, particularly with those colder air temperatures. And weather conditions are partly cloudy with an expected high today at Billy Mitchell with those 2 foot waves at 46 degrees Fahrenheit. So pulling out a bit to get a broader picture, I want to show you some of the ongoing larger weather factors that are going to affect the Outer Banks and the Atlantic Ocean in the coming days. And I want to show you first the global forecast system model for the United States. We're also going to look at a global forecast system model for the North Atlantic, but I want to show you what's coming down the pipe as far as weather systems go. And for the U.S. East, over the next couple of days, we're expected to see high pressure dominate as a little ridge builds in ahead of the expected intrusion of another trough. The storm system over the Pacific Northwest moves in over the Rockies, kicking off snow in the higher elevations and rainy conditions in through New Mexico and Arizona here. And then the system moves eastward as high pressure seems to ward off the intrusion of major weather systems here over the east for the next at least couple of days through the 29th. And then the high pressure starts to retreat off the US East Coast as a storm system gathers strength over the Mississippi River Valley in through Friday the 30th, and then begins to track eastward on the 31st, and then by January 1st becomes the next weather system that is going to bring some stormier conditions to the Outer Banks as a low forms near the Great Lakes. And looks like we have another low that is also forming here along the coastline, kicking up some relatively stormy weather for the Outer Banks. This storm system is not expected to be anywhere near as powerful as the bomb cyclone that we saw during recent days. This one's just going to be in the more normal range as we get some stormy weather here in the Outer Banks that then sweeps off shore in the late New Year day hours and then is a bygone memory by the time January 2nd rolls around. So a more normal weather pattern for the Outer Banks over the coming days, which is good. It's good to get back to normal after that. Those gale force conditions and those rapidly changing temperatures from the bomb cyclone. Looking at the jet stream map, we can already see that the trough that is prevailing in the upper levels is starting to mush out a bit. It's starting to break up with the anticipated building of a high pressure ridge moving in over the next couple of days. And then off here in the eastern North Atlantic, we do still have the trough maintaining off of Europe and Africa here. And so I'm going to go ahead and move these jet stream models forward so you can see what the jet stream is expected to do here as the ridge builds in through the US East with those high pressure systems coming in to bring calmer weather. And also the trough kind of digging in and backing up a bit into the North Atlantic over the next few days. And actually, not backing up. I just looked at a model and it did show it backing up. So apparently this model is not showing the trough backing up. It's just maintaining here off of Europe and Africa. It does look like we're going to get a bit of a ridge impulse here in the central North Atlantic. Not a very tall ridge, but nonetheless a ridge. So, and then a trough reforming out in the central North Atlantic as a ridge builds in here off of Spain and Africa. So this trough here in the central North Atlantic is worth keeping an eye on because we've seen some rather strong storm systems form in the central North Atlantic. And then by the 29th, we do have that trough forming again in the central US as it moves on toward the east. And the trough deepens across the North Atlantic. And then by the end of this model here, on January the 1st, we have the trough forming in through the central US. And yeah, this is the end of the model. The central and eastern US, and the trough reforming again rather deeply here in the central North Atlantic. So that's a good assessment of what's going to happen with the jet stream, and that also gives us an idea of where those storm systems are going to form when they do. And we're looking at storm formation zone here in the central North Atlantic, and a reassertion of the trough over the east for some more stormy conditions. Now, looking at the wave models for the Outer Banks, again, waves are pretty calm, but we do expect waves to build. And I wanted to show you this wave model. I'm just going to advance this as we, and this is for the near offshore environment of the Outer Banks. I also want to show you this storm here over the Pacific Northwest as well. But for now, we do expect waves to build over the Outer Banks, and this is looking at the model. So by the 30th, we have 3.5 foot significant wave heights just offshore. And then by the 31st, along with the stormier conditions, the waves build up to around 5 feet in the nearshore environment. So nothing really, nothing really crazy here for the Outer Banks, but we do have wave conditions expected to build. Out here in the central North Atlantic, waves are expected to be much taller out in the shipping lanes as they tend to with the formation of storms. So we got significant wave heights in the range of 25 feet here off of Spain, about 20 feet here off of Greenland, and far to the northeast of Iceland, 24-foot significant wave heights as well. And that's for the New Year's Eve forecast. Now, looking at today, I did want to show you these significant wave heights here off of Oregon at nearly 32 feet. So very, very tall waves here off the US West Coast in association with a pretty powerful low. Now, looking at the global forecast system model for the North Atlantic, I did want to show you the projected prevalence areas for storm formation. So you do see the ridge dominate for the next few days over the US East, and then that ridge kind of collapses as a trough begins to form, and we get the storm system I talked about over New Year's Eve and New Year's holiday, but not a major one. And then you have the storm formation zone up here in the upper North Atlantic with powerful lows forming south and east of Greenland. And then looking later on into the models, we have the trough beginning to dip down into the North Atlantic here with storm formations moving out more into the central North Atlantic. So with some 960 millibar systems just south of, or a 960 millibar system just south of Greenland, and another low forming for the eastern U.S. over the Great Lakes region. Great Lakes seems to be kind of the zone for these lows to form, and then whipping on out. So again, just this model just shows you the expected prevalent areas for storm formation. And then after a hiatus over 2 days here for the U.S. East Coast, we do expect storms to begin to refire, although nothing really too powerful here for the eastern U.S., mostly normal storm systems. And then out here for the central North Atlantic, we do have some rather powerful storms projected to form, particularly one here whipping in just off of Greenland that drops down actually into the 950 millibar range in the later portions of the models projected around January 5th. So that's pretty late in the game. Might be something to watch though for wave formation as the winds whip from the west to the east across a broad swath of the North Atlantic. And for those of you who are climate watchers, you may want to look at where the rain snow line forms for Greenland there as the storm pulls in these warm winds off the Atlantic and hurls them in at the Greenland ice sheet there. So something to watch for those of you who are climate observers. Well, in any case, thank you for joining me for the OBX Wave Report today, where we discuss all things waves, weather, and climate for the Outer Banks and the larger surrounding regions. I'm going to leave you with this image from magicseaweed.com. This is a graphic rendering of a wave model projection for waves for the Billy Mitchell Airport beaches. And as you can see, over the coming days, waves are expected to build from 2 feet at present to 4 feet by late Friday and into early Saturday. So improving wave conditions for the Outer Banks over the coming days as we experience placid conditions today. And so thank you for joining me, and please remember to do everything you can to help save our beautiful coastlines from the impacts of climate change driven by fossil fuel burning, and get those clean energy systems up